Beckham has cleared waivers and he is now free to sign with any team. Josina Anderson is reporting that the free agent will take some time and assess the best situation for him with several options still on the table. So the Beckham watch continues. Speculation, I love it, could quickly become reality. Odell Beckham Jr. in a Patriots uniform. I'm going to be honest, though. I'm still sort of like, whatever, hum on whether or not he actually comes here. Hello and welcome to our Bella Early Edition. I'm Trenni Kusnierek. My feelings haven't changed. I think if you can get OBJ on a deal that makes some sense and you can all but be assured that he's not going to wreck the team if he doesn't have 8 catches for 100 yards every single Sunday or Thursday, then it's not a bad idea. Even if he is 29 years old and not the guy we saw in New York, I'd argue that Beckham is probably better than any receiver you have on the roster right now. And there's also the chance that his ability allows Mac Jones to grow as a quarterback, making the passing game a bigger focus on the offense. But there's also the chance Beckham wrecks what the Pats have been working towards with Jones by whining every time he doesn't touch the ball and making Mac second guess every single throw. I also find it interesting that you're hard-pressed to find the Patriots on anyone's list of possible landing spots. Lists outside of New England, of course. Either the Patriots aren't all that interested, or they're doing their, old Patriots things, waiting in the grass to attack and add a weapon in the wide-open AFC. What will they do, Tom E. Curran? What will they do? Do you expect that Odell Beckham Jr. will end up in a Patriots uniform?
Expect, with the wide-open nature of this and the unpredictability of NFL decision-making by teams and individuals, no, I can't expect it. But I certainly think that it's a possibility. I wouldn't say a high possibility either.
Okay.
But look, the likelihood exists. And I'll tell you this, the folks that I've spoken to in Foxborough over the last week about Odell Beckham, not once has anyone expressed to me doubt about the fact that he could be an intriguing ad. I've also had folks tell me that he does bring an ability that isn't necessarily represented on their offense. And you see it a little bit right there. Look, Kendrick Bourne is a particular skill set. Same with Jacoby Myers, same with Nelson Aguilar, same with the tight ends, but none of them have that sudden stop and start ability that Odell Beckham does. None of them have the same hands. None of them have the same toughness after the catch. He's 5'10", 198. He's about as close, believe it or not, Trenni, to Julian Edelman as you're going to find.
So is it fair to say that you think they need, or could, maybe not need, but could use a wide receiver like that? Because let's be honest, they don't have that guy right now.
No, and that's okay if you don't, because when the Patriots had Troy Brown and David Givens, or Deion Branch and David Givens, or we all know the history, they didn't necessarily have some starry wide receiver who everyone knew by his initials, and they still had plenty of success. But there is a lack of that speed element in that short area quickness and the explosiveness after the catch that just Jacoby Myers, who's leading the team by far with catches in 46, doesn't bring to you. So, yeah, go ahead and do it. I will say this too, Trent. Odell Beckham Jr. is not in a position to go into anybody's huddle and demand the football. And I really would be surprised. I don't think he's a dummy. I think he's a pain in the ass. I don't think he's a dummy. And I just don't think that he would go in as somebody joining a new team as a new employee and say, here's how it's going to be around here with me, my friend. He needs to make good on himself at this point, right?
Yes, and I do, though. I guess I look to, I think today some people thought, well, if they don't add Jarrett Stidham back to the 53-man roster, maybe that's indicative of where they're headed. But they did add him back. So is there even room on this roster? Would they make room, find a way to bring him in?
Yeah, it would only take a second or two. And I'm not sure what the disposition on Christian Wilkerson is right now. He was the guy who was elevated last week. He might have been the one who went down to make room. I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. It's just a boom, quick transaction. You move somebody off and you bring OBJ on. So to me, it wouldn't be hard to do. Okay. Also, keep an eye on Trent Brown. He's the other guy who could be coming back off that the Patriots could probably need. But I'd say keep a light on, if at the very least, for OBJ.
We're like Motel 6 over here. Keep a light on for you. Well, Tom E. Curran just talked about this, and Mike Giardi sort of bolstering that opinion. That he tweeted this earlier from NFL Network saying, quote, I have no idea what Odell Beckham wants aside from targets, catches, and TDs, but I talked to a couple of important staffers in Foxborough and was told he's not vintage OBJ, but still plenty good and would work in this offense. That is where we begin the deep dive, and we begin there with Andy Hart and Tommy Giles. Giles, would Odell Beckham Jr., would that move work in New England now that he has passed through waivers and you don't have to pay that gargantuan salary?
I don't see why not. I think the other thing you need to consider is that Odell Beckham Jr., after this season, is going to be a free agent. So why would he come into a new situation, choose to come into a new situation and cause problems? I think he realizes at this point in his career, he got 8 games left, actually 7 games left, 8 games, whatever it'll be, and then maybe a playoff game. So you really have to show yourself as someone who can help a team win games while also trying to put up some numbers. I don't see why it wouldn't work.
Well, I'll tell you that he did say if he went somewhere he didn't want to go, although that was through waivers, so now he can choose, but that he would make a stink. So I'm not sure he wouldn't still be a pain in the butt, Andy Hart, but I think I'd take him if it was for the right price. Would you?
Yeah, in theory, this team needs a number 1 receiver, and he fills that role. He's always been a number 1 type receiver. He's just not been great in about 5 years. And, I think Giles is right. In theory, again, there's a lot of theories being thrown around here. He'd be on his best behavior, but I don't know if he can control it. I think he'd go in saying, yeah, I'm going to be on my best behavior. I'm going to do this. It's only a half a year, blah, 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 rehab my image. But I think it'd be a challenge for Mac and this offense, a rookie quarterback, to bring OBJ into the mix and make it work.
All right, you keep saying in theory, in theory, in theory. In reality, what do you think it would be?
In reality, I think it'd be a disaster because OBJ is OBJ, and I don't think OBJ would be happy. He's with a rookie quarterback. If the rookie quarterback stumbles, throws an interception, misses the read, I think he would be wham, 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 right in his ear. And it would put a lot of stress on Mac Jones. And I know Mac Jones has answered every call we've had from spring through the summer, the competition this season. But this would be a massive challenge for Mac Jones as a rookie starting quarterback to deal with OBJ, something that his 2 prior quarterbacks couldn't really deal with.
But I trust the Patriots, though, to move on from him if it becomes an issue. And I think they're one of the few franchises that can handle that, where he could bring in Odell Beckham Jr. for 2 or 3 games, and if it doesn't work out and he's already crying and he's already causing problems, then, all right, well, see you later. We're going to go back to what we had. I
would also say, Giles, that they're one of the few franchises that can say, we have a head coach that players actually respect and that they look at and say, what that guy says goes. And he certainly, I don't think, has that in Cleveland, and he didn't have it in the end in New York. And I think that often makes a difference in these situations, at least in the short term.
What about the kicking net? Is the kicking net in Foxborough one that might offend him and cause him? Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who fought a kicking net essentially on the sideline. So we can bring sane analysis to this. I just don't know what he would do a couple weeks in. And it'd be interesting to see what money we're talking about, too. Is he just going to come to New England for a real low money deal, one that you could immediately move on from 2 weeks later? Or are you going to make an Antonio Brown mistake and overinvest in a troubled wide receiver?
Well, it doesn't seem like he's going to get more than $7 million, because if he was, then you probably would have gone ahead and added him on waivers. That's why I think the money part is fascinating in the sense that for the first time in his career, he's got no money in front of him. Like this is an audition, half of a season of an audition to get paid going into next season.